90% of men who tried to quit porn this year failed. And a whole bunch of them are trying to kick things off again before the year is over so they can have some sort of accomplishment. This is a terrible idea, and I'm going to explain to you why December is the worst time to quit porn and what you should be doing instead. Welcome to the Man Within podcast. My name is Sathiya Sam. I'm your host. If you are a listener of this podcast or a viewer of this podcast and you have not subscribed to us, make sure you do that. That's the best way for you to stay engaged with our content. We drop 4 episodes every single week, helping you quit pornography. You know, when I struggled with porn, I needed a daily voice in my ear reminding me that it was possible. That's what the Man Within podcast is for you. And I want to let you know that if you've been listening to us, we are officially on YouTube. All of our episodes, interviews, solo casts, anything that you hear on audio is going to be on YouTube as well, which is new for us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching over here. Make sure that you subscribe so that you stay engaged. And if you want to listen to us when you're on the road or you're working out or that sort of thing, you can find us on all audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You get the idea. The list goes on and on. So make sure you check us out on those platforms. Make sure you're subscribed. And let's jump into today's content. So look, I've been helping guys quit pornography since December 2018, which is kind of wild for me. February 2026, just a couple months from now, I will be celebrating 10 years clean of pornography. We got some major milestones coming up. We also are about to cross 1 million downloads on this podcast. So anyways, let me not get ahead of myself. We got some cool things coming up to commemorate everything that lies ahead. I mention all of that to give you an idea that I have seen this cycle before. Okay, I've been through about 7 cycles now of a full calendar year and what goes on in the typical guy's life. January is the new year, new me. I'm gonna quit porn this year. I love January. It's my favorite time in this cycle because this is when guys are motivated. This is when guys make major moves. This is when guys do things they normally wouldn't do, but they kind of always knew that they needed to do it. It brings out some really good things in us, and that's actually great. I love that part of January. By the time you get to sort of the spring, like April, May, you kind of understand who the real players are in quitting pornography. And again, it's different for everybody. I don't want to bash anyone, but I just know that usually people that kind of piecemeal the solution, people that were sort of just doing it in hype, or people that didn't actually invest in anything, they just said, I'm going to quit, but they didn't pay any money to get some help, or it didn't cost them anything, time-wise, money-wise, or energy-wise. Usually by April or May, the whole quit porn this year is an afterthought, and they just think, I guess this isn't for me, or whatever. They tell themselves that they're doing it, but they know in their heart of hearts they're not. That kind of idea. By the time you get into the fall, it's either a long lost thought or you have incredible momentum, because now you're 9 months in. If you're 9 months into the recovery journey, which a lot of our deep clean guys are, lots of them in momentum, lots of them, their marriages are back in track, getting promotions at work, stepping more into their calling. These are some of the things that we see in our community around this mark, presuming that people are still doing the work, they're staying engaged, and they're keeping things moving forward in the right direction. And then you have the other contingent, which is people who have completely forgot about quitting pornography. They got so busy in the summer, and maybe the summer was even difficult with all the beach visits. There were lots of temptations, and now they're back in the fall schedule, and they got kids' schedules with sports and extracurriculars, and they got their own stuff going on, and work is busy, and you forget about it. And then December comes. And typically what happens right around this time, it's just after Thanksgiving in America. In Canada, Thanksgiving was a little bit further back, but you have some holidays, you have some intense kind of end of the year work stuff, you have some relationship tensions that start to surface around this time of the year, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, I still haven't quit porn. What was I thinking? That was the thing I was supposed to do this year. And so you might be tempted to say, well, this is the month. I'm gonna make up for lost time, and I'm gonna get it all done this month. And I want to let you know that is a losing strategy. You do not want to do that. Trust me, you don't want to do that. I've seen a lot of guys do that and then regret it later, or just end up in the same cycles later on. So what we need to do instead is we need to understand, why didn't this work in the first place? Now, I kind of already alluded to why it probably didn't work. I have two guesses. Number one is that the solution you picked at the beginning of the year didn't cost you enough. This is really, really important. Pornography is a very rewarding addiction. It's pleasure-based. And because it's pleasure-based, unless the solution to quit pornography costs you more than the pleasure it brings you, you will never, ever actually quit. You might need to let that sink in, okay? Unless the solution costs you more than the pleasure pornography is providing you, you will never quit. Somebody just came to check out our program about a week ago. He's been spending $1,800 a month on sexual experiences online. And he still is not convinced that he needs to pay anywhere near that amount to get free of pornography. Now, when you have this kind of thinking, I will tell you, as long as he picks a solution that's, let's say, a couple $100, he's not going to quit. There's no way, because he's spending more on his pleasureful addiction. That's a better investment of his money than spending a few $100 to try to get rid of the entire thing. Until the cost of his solution is, let's call it like $4,000, $6,000, $10,000. Maybe it's not all money. Maybe it's $5,000, but then it also costs him some time, and it costs him some other things that are meaningful to him in his life. There's no way he's going to leave that $1,800 a month habit behind. It's just human behavior. So number one is, I would venture a guess that it probably didn't cost you enough. Number two is, you probably didn't have the right support. So we have to learn from our mistakes, because we don't want to repeat them. And the problem is, if in your hype or your panic, you just decide, this is the month that I'm going to quit pornography. In December, I'm going to I'm going to go right after it, and we're going to get it, and we're going to make it happen. What worries me about that approach is that you don't actually learn from your mistakes of the past, and you end up just repeating the cycle all over again. Because that whole, like, I'm just going to get clean now and make it happen, kind of sounds a little bit like what you did in January. So let's not do that. Instead, here's a different thought, okay? Because December is a tricky month. You're out of your routine. You have extra holidays. You tend to indulge a little bit more in food and desserts and sweets. And there's relationship dynamics depending on what Christmas looks like, and even work parties and friend parties, and all that kind of stuff. There could be a lot of triggering things going on. My friend Drew Boa of Husband Material says it's the most triggering time of the year. He sings, it's the most triggering time of the, you get it. So we have to be really careful. And the thing I want to suggest to you is, rather than trying to put all this pressure on December and let's make up for lost time and let's quit pornography right now and rah, 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 why don't you do this instead? Why don't you make December your launch month? Let's look at December as a shoehorn, okay? Because we know January, you're going to be motivated. January, you're going to have a lot of like New Year momentum. Something about the calendar changing just does something to our human psychology. So we know that's coming. If we get ourselves into a deeper hole than we're in right now, then all of that momentum just gets us out of the hole. It's just enough to get us breathing again. But what if December was that month instead? What if December was the month where we got things going in the right direction? We even got a little bit of momentum along the way, so that after the Christmas holidays into the New Year, New Me cycle, we are above ground, we're breathing, and now all that additional momentum from the new year takes us to new heights in our recovery. That is the approach that's actually going to get you somewhere in your December this year. So what does that look like? Well, we want to go back to the mistakes that were made in January. Why didn't your solutions work? I mentioned the cost. I mentioned the importance of support. And the other thing I'll throw in here that also could be at play is just a consistency thing. So maybe you had those things, but you weren't diligent with them. You didn't schedule time for it and whatever else. Look, that's easy, low-hanging fruit. If you have access to those resources still, just schedule time in December to start doing it. Do it realistically. Do it for an hour a week if that's all you can manage. December is a busy month. Better to do something than nothing at all. That's going to shoehorn you into the new year, and that's kind of what we're after. If for you it was cost, you just realized the solutions I picked were too cheap. They were too easy. They didn't outweigh the pleasure that porn brought me. Well, you need to look into some solutions that are actually going to force you to pay a little bit more attention. That's sort of the adage, is that if you pay, the more you pay, the more you will pay attention. So consider that. And number three is, if you didn't have enough support, you didn't have community or you didn't have coaching, go find something. Find a community to plug into. There's lots of communities that are free. There's communities that are $5 a month, $15 a month. Our community is about $60 a month. These are again low. Like you're gonna spend all this money on gifts this year, on food, on parties. You can spend $60 to just get shoehorned into a community to at least start some momentum in your recovery. That's nothing. That's a really really easy way to get the ball rolling. And the other thing I would say is, if you're looking beyond the community part, then coaching as well. That's something you should really consider. Maybe you don't hire a coach this month. Maybe you do. If you know who you want to work with, just do it. But if you want to maybe do some research this month and then make your decision in January, that's great as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Just use this month productively. A lot of guys just let the momentum kind of veer off course in December. They figure I'll fix it all in January. It doesn't work that way. You end up spending all of that energy in January just to get back on track. What if December was the month you got back on track and January was the month you took things to the next level? That's what I want for you, my friends. And that's why December is the worst time to quit pornography. You should take this approach instead, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Now, if you want more great advice throughout Christmas, I'm actually working on a series to help you stay clean during the holidays because it is the most triggering time of the year. Make sure that you subscribe so that you get all that content delivered to your feed. I don't want you to miss out. I want you to be Christmas clean, and I want you to walk into 2026 an absolutely clean and free man. The content here is going to help you do that. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.